are Locked On Rays, your daily Tampa Bay Rays podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, my name is Kevin Weiss.
I'm Ulises Sambrano,
host of Locked On Rays, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for making the Locked On Rays podcast your first listen every day. And remember, Locked On Rays is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube at Locked On Rays. Also, be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Locked On Rays. And you can email us anytime, lockedonrays@gmail.com. Ulises, as of this recording, the lockout is still ongoing as far as I know, and I think it's going to be that way for the next little bit here.
A lot of posturing, a lot of chest pumping, a lot of I'm right, you're wrong. It's it's going to be that way until probably like January, I think, mid-January. Although I think we got an email there by Chase Ross who says he thinks the lockout date will finish around February.
We might have to do an over-under on that. There's a lot of negotiating through the media and through the public space and sphere as of right now. I did see a poll, actually. We're not having lockout talk today necessarily, but that roughly 90% of fans are in support of the players compared to the owners. And I think that's fair to assume and think, because how do you feel sorry? How do you side with a billionaire compared to millionaires? Like if you have to side with one, you're siding with the guys who are more like us, probably.
If what makes you decide aside is the money aspect, then why would you choose the billionaire?
Right.
And by the way, those owners are all billionaires.
Yes.
All players are not millionaires. Randy Arozarena is not a millionaire.
Yeah,
we all are aware of that. Right?
A lot of them aren't millionaires.
A lot of them are not millionaires. A lot of them go. Austin Meadows is not a millionaire.
Heck, a lot of the guys that get shuffled back and forth aren't even making league minimum.
Lewis Head is not a millionaire. Yeah. Actually, some of us that are listening have acquired more net worth than Lewis Head might have.
Yeah, that's very possible.
Let's have that perspective. Yeah. But enough lockout talk.
Yeah, lockout talk is over for now.
Yes.
We do have some updates with the Tampa Bay Rays, something that we didn't really have time to get into last week, but we wanted to address. The Rays did tender contracts to 13 of their arbitration-eligible players. They also avoided arbitration with Ji-Man Choi and locked him up to a $3.2 million deal for next season. We'll get to the Choi stuff, the Choi dilemma later on. But Ulises, with the Rays tendering contracts to Nick Anderson, Jalen Beeks, Yanni Chirinos, Yandy Diaz, Tyler Glasnow, Andrew Kittredge, Manny Margot, Austin Meadows, Francisco Mejia, Brett Phillips, Jeffrey Springs, Matt Whistler, and Ryan Yarbrough. Were you surprised by this move, or did you think one or more guys were going to get non-tendered last week?
I think last week when we had our tender deadline looms episode, we mentioned either one or two.
Okay.
So having them all accept, I don't think it was a big surprise or a big shock to anybody really, but I think it's great. Look, these guys now have peace of mind. There wasn't any really big news. I guess the biggest news we'll get to, obviously, Choi, like you said. But the second biggest news might have been Glasnow, getting that. So then now you have them locked up with that 2022. We'll see if that, changes to a trade deal after the lockout and so forth. But no, I don't really think there was anything shocking about, tendering contracts to all of those guys.
My follow-up question, these 13 players, will they all be within the organization come opening day? Or do the Rays find a way to part with one or more of them via trade or other measure?
I wouldn't be surprised if some of them got traded. Obviously, like I just said, Glasnow could be one of those guys.
Is he the most likely? Or is it somebody else?
Well, I would take out anybody that was on the 60-day IL. So the Nick Andersons, the Jalen Beeks, the Colin Poche, the Yanni Chirinos, they're not going to get traded, right? A Manny Margot, I could see that. A Tyler Glasnow, I could see that. That's about it, though.
Okay.
But again, I'm on the camp. I'm on the side that KK and Glasnow will be on the team. I know we differ on that take, but I really don't see why you would trade Glasnow. I really don't.
And I've said that if Glasnow's on the team, then KK's off the team. So that might have to be one of our early prop bets.
Honestly, that would fit the prop bet parameter.
Yeah.
But again, it's just I keep sounding like a broken record here, but I'll say it again. I do think this Wander Franco extension basically told us that this franchise is going to be spending a little bit more money.
Right.
They tendered everybody, even the folks that we said that they might not be. So I don't buy into KK has to go if Glasnow stays. I really do think they're going to spend a little bit more money, and that little bit more money might mean putting $5 million, $6 million into a guy that you're not going to see pitch for 2022.
Well, I think it's more about maybe the interest that Kevin Kiermaier drums up. I mean, there have been so many rumors of, is he going to the Phillies? Is he going somewhere else? And just the glut of outfielders that at some point you got to make room for Josh Lowe and maybe give some opportunities to Manny Margot and Brett Phillips and whatever it may be. So I don't know if it's just necessarily a money thing. I think that certainly helps with, okay, we don't have to pay this guy $12, $13 million, whatever it is, but also some roster clearing space, if you will. What I'm interested and curious with these tender contracts, you didn't mention Ryan Yarbrough as a guy who could be on the out. So are you under the impression and assumption that Ryan Yarbrough will be on the Rays opening day roster, assuming health?
You know, talking to somebody who we're going to have on the pod this week, who you guys are going to just love. Mm-hmm. It was a very long conversation, and we're going to split it up in different segments. You guys are going to love this special guest. I went back on the numbers with Yarbrough.
Right.
You can't just let go of a guy who has been durable.
Agree.
I mean, you can't, especially in a team that still has those four rookies, the Shanes, the Drew, and the Luis. Mm-hmm. Are you really going to let go of a guy who can give you 130, 150 innings? Year in, year out, year in, year out. We were talking about Matt Garza the other day. Okay, so nobody's throwing 198, 180, 200 anymore.
Right.
But that has translated to 130, 140, 150 nowadays.
Yeah.
So you're just going to just let that guy go? I don't think so. So when we're talking about probables, could he be traded? Yes, I think so. But again, I wouldn't be shocked if they remained a guy who can throw 140 innings. And by the way, going back to that KK situation with the Phillies, I would love I think, seeing him with Girardi and the Yankee pass, I think that would be really cool. Mm-hmm. But then again, I think KK would be a great piece as the trade deadline approaches rather than as the season begins. I think his value would up a little bit when there's some defensive need in some team. Guy gets hurt. You want a guy who can protect you. I think KK would be a piece then, not now.
It's interesting about Yarbrough because we've quite frankly crapped on Yarbrough many times on this podcast, and sometimes deservedly so.
In 2021, we may have done that. But in 2019 and 2020, this pod was very pro-Yarbs because he was doing his job. 2021, the results weren't there.
Yeah, let me just say that recently, over the course of the 2021 season, we've been critical of him. And to your point, Ulises, I think that, the trade value isn't really there for Yarbrough after a career worst season, but what he brings in the sense of the durability, and you can basically bank on that he'll give you at least 140, 145, maybe 150 innings. In fact, if he was more effective as a pitcher, he very well could have thrown more innings if need be. And I think it's one of those things where, because he is such a sure thing of, you're going to get durability out of him, and he's not going to go down with some arm or elbow issues. There's a lot of question marks. A lot of guys are, can this guy really throw 120, 130 innings? What can we expect from Drew Rasmussen next year? What can
Exactly.
we expect from Luis Patino? Yonny Chirinos isn't coming back till the second half of the year. How good is he, or how effective is he going to be? Tommy Romero, as great as he's been in the minor leagues, is he going to necessarily light the world on fire in the majors or be more effective than Ryan Yarbrough? A lot
of question marks. That's a lot of question marks.
You don't get a couple months of glass now to give you 80, 90 innings. He's missing all year next year. I mean, the most likely he's missing all of next year.
I would tell you, I think he would be a nice piece to have as a backup, as a need, because he has options.
Yeah.
Ryan Yarbrough has options. I'm just looking this up on Fangraphs. He's got 2 options.
Okay.
So that makes him a very nice option of, hey, look, maybe right now you don't need him. Other guys are having better success.
Corey Kluber goes down?
There you go. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a nice piece to have.
It really is. And you know what? I think that, and we can look at the ERA, and it was really porous for sure, but you still look at what Yarbrough does well, the weak content.
Elite.
The weak contact, the average exit velocity, the chase rate, the walk rate, all that stuff is very, very good. What was an issue for Yarbrough was the cutter and hanging that cutter, particularly to righties. And look, if he's facing the Red Sox ever again, just don't throw that thing.
Yeah.
It was his most used pitch this past season, and it was his worst pitch. So something has to change with the deploying of that, like Michael Wacha did towards the tail end of the year. And I don't know how or what the Rays can do about that, if it's just scrapping it entirely or really tapering back or just using it to certain hitters. But that thing was just, I mean, it got hit hard, relentlessly, and it just would hang in the middle of the zone, like right into the bat path of so many right-handed hitters.
And his velocity has decreased since his major league debut consistently. So obviously there are question marks, but you know what? There's no question mark about it, is that he can definitely stay healthy. He has been reliable. So if you want a guy that can give you those innings, because again, you need a number 5 starter. Like every team is going to have a number 5 starter. Somebody also has to cover innings. I know everybody just wants to have, David Price of 2014 or 2013 all the time. 1 through 5. You're not going to have that. You're going to need a guy who just steps onto the mound like Wacha did in 2021. Yarbrough could be that guy for 2022.
Look what Andrew Heaney got paid. Look at what Eduardo Rodriguez got paid. Look at what Steven Matz got paid. Look at what now Noah Syndergaard's a different story, of course, because it's more of he brings the firepower. But look at Andrew Heaney's numbers and say, how did that guy get $8.5 million?
Well,
and
they're doing that by half by Yarbrough.
Yeah. And the other thing too with Yarbrough is maybe there comes a point where the Rays say, we have enough starting pitchers. All our guys are healthy. The young guys they're killing it. Hey, we just don't have a spot for Yarbrough. How about lefty reliever? Couple inning reliever. Look, and here's the other thing. We talk about question marks. We don't necessarily know what we're going to get from Jalen Beeks this year. We don't know what we're going to get from Colin Poche this year.
Yonny Chirinos.
Yeah. So it's good to keep him around, I think. Brendan McKay is not helping you out this year.
You're going to need healthy guys, because there are many that are coming back from the 60-day IL, having that as an option. And again, you don't have to keep him in the major league roster either all the time. He's got options. You can put him down in AAA if everybody else is succeeding and you don't need Ryan Yarbrough, you can stash him.
I want to see the Rays call up and send down Ryan Yarbrough as many times as they did with Lewis Head. Break that record. Who cares about how many different guys get saved? Let's see how many guys have to take plane rides from Durham to St. Pete or Durham to pick a major league city.
Does Lewis Head have the major league record for that? That'd be nice to know.
That'd be a great question.
Because if he does, he might forever hold that record, because maybe that's one of the things that we could see from the CBA lockout is no more Lewis Head shenanigans. You can't just do this to guys' livelihoods and families. You can't do that.
Yeah. Now, what I will say, I have it on good accord that Lewis Head, when he would take those plane rides, he would take advantage of DirecTV Stream. He would take advantage of DirecTV Stream because it's a simple way to get all the entertainment you love without all the hassle. DirecTV Stream brings your live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before, which means you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. And the best part of it all, there is no annual contract. So stop waiting and get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. That is DirecTV Stream. You can learn more about that at directtv.com. Again, directtv.com to check out DirecTV Stream. Okay, Ulises. So something that I think maybe the most shocking news about the tender contracts was the fact that the Rays didn't tender Ji-Man Choi. They didn't non-tender Ji-Man Choi, but they instead agreed to a 1-year, $3.2 million deal with Choi for next season. What is your take on this move?
I will never say Ji-Man Choi might be traded. I will never say Ji-Man Choi will not. I mean, for all intents and purposes, I'm done speculating with Ji-Man Choi and the Rays. I now foresee Ji-Man Choi being a 40-year-old and still playing with the Rays, throwing a knuckleball as a right-hander pitcher.
Yeah.
Closing games. Like, that's it. I'm done. Because we have said it for 3 seasons back to back. Oh, he might be traded. Oh, he's probably going to be traded. Oh, he will definitely not get tendered. And the Rays just keep bringing him back. So I'm done. I'm done saying that he's off this team. And I think everybody in Rays Nation should also stop saying that. And I'm throwing that back at you. Let's stop saying that Ji-Man Choi is not going to be with the Rays because he survived once again.
I like what you're saying, but I do think that Ji-Man Choi is going to be traded this upcoming year. I don't know if it's going to be before opening day or
no way.
A Willy Adames type thing. Here's my take. Here's my theory on this. Okay. The Rays, Ji-Man Choi is like a backup policy. He's insurance if the Rays can't find or can't agree to a deal with a right-handed power bat, with a right-handed bat first guy that Eric Neander has talked about in press conferences, that is what the Rays are going after. Is it Nelson Cruz? Is it Tommy Pham? Is it a guy like that? If the Rays sign a player like that, then I think they can move off of and trade Ji-Man Choi. Because if you're going to invest that much money into Nelson Cruz again or Tommy Pham or somebody like that, I mean, of course, it's not going to be Chris Bryant, but a guy that brings some cachet and panache to the right side, then they can get rid of Ji-Man Choi and maybe, okay, we got rid of the lefty first baseman. Let's sign Mike Ford to a minor league deal with an invite to spring training. I think that's what their idea is. If they can lock up a right-handed power bat and then trade Ji-Man Choi, not saying they're going to get a lot for Ji-Man Choi, but they can move off of him in one shape, form, or another.
Look, I think Ji-Man Choi is serviceable if you use him correctly. Like we said in his player review, he will mash righties. He will mash them.
Yeah.
So my question to you is, if you're putting Ji-Man Choi on the trade block because the Rays sign a Nelson Cruz or a right-handed power bat, what happens to that left side of the platoon at first base? Is it, like we have said, Austin Meadows, Brendan Lau, or what happens there? Because I really don't see, even though he's serviceable, I don't see the Rays putting Yandy Diaz for 162 games.
Maybe it is the Brandon Lau thing. Maybe it is the Austin Meadows theory. Again, that's why you sign a lefty bat off the scrap. But maybe you go out and get a Colin Moran type. But my point is, if you go out and sign this big name, quote unquote, right-handed hitter, you're not signing him just to face lefties. In that case, you might as well have just kept Jordan Luplow.
So then why if you sign Nelson Cruz, why don't you want to keep Ji-Man Choi?
Because there's not enough room. You got to find a spot for Vidal Brujan and Taylor Walls and Josh Lowe.
Yeah, but I mean, then
if you're keeping Kiermaier around too, like who's the next guy that goes then? Is it a pitcher? I mean, maybe it is. I don't know. But I'm looking at
that's the thing.
Brett Phillips, is he? Who's the next man on the chopping block, I guess?
Honestly, I think a pitcher. You know why? Because I don't think the owners or the CBA, this whole lockout thing, is very friendly towards what the Rays have been side. So there might be a maximum pitchers allowed in the roster now. And so then I would say that. But I really don't see, if you bring a Nelson Cruz, I don't think you get rid of your position players. And I know we've said you got to get Taylor Walls is going to get playing time now.
Yes.
Taylor Walls, that Wendell trade was Walls.
Right.
So now you're right. You need time for Josh Lowe and you need time for Vidal Brujan. That could come from that KK trade in the middle of the season, or a Manny Margot trade, Brett Phillips trade before the season begins. I don't see why getting Nelson Cruz would determine Ji-Man Choi's fate. And again, Nelson Cruz and Nelson Cruz.
Because Nelson Cruz is still good against righties. And
Sure.
if you're throwing $10 million, $12 million at a guy like that, you're not platooning him.
No, you're not. But if
and
he's just a DH guy, guy,
that's fair.
Then you still need a first baseman against righties, and that would be Ji-Man Choi. Unless that DH, this is the thing, unless that DH can play first base,
okay,
then I agree with you. But if it's just a guy who's just going to be DHing, I don't see why that would mean the end of Ji-Man Choi.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, and honestly, the more I thought about this, I kind of, again, I was on record that I thought that Ji-Man Choi was going to get non-tendered, and
We
that
both
he was
were,
gone.
yeah.
But I'm trying to get the Rays' perspective on this because, and I have nothing against Ji-Man Choi. It's just he's a part-time player that gets hurt a lot. Now, he does bring a lot to the clubhouse, and he is a fan favorite, and I understand all of that. But if you're not willing to pay Joey Wendell $4 million, then why are you willing to pay Ji-Man Choi $3.2 million?
Well, because I think you're ready for Walls.
Okay.
You're not ready. Who's after Ji-Man Choi? You said it, Mike Ford? Like, nah, who cares? Like, who's behind Ji-Man Choi? Nobody's really pushing him out. There's not even Nate Lowe pushed him out.
Yeah, although he probably should have.
Maybe. But Walls pushed out Wendell. And again, Wendell's was at his highest asset value. Ji-Man, it really isn't, has a high asset value. So why would you trade him? No, I think they're going to keep him. And I'm done guessing what the Rays are doing with Ji-Man Choi, honestly, because we've gotten it right now, gotten it wrong three off seasons in a row.
So they're not trading for Matt Olson. They're not going to sign Freddie Freeman or Anthony Rizzo.
No.
Or add Brad Miller. That's not going to happen.
When I say this franchise is going to spend a little bit more money, I think people should know that I mean from a 65 to 70 million payroll to maybe 80 million. Which, by the way, I think they're at 83 right now, 82, which is pretty nice. That we've never had that. So hopefully it stays like that at 82 mil.
Here's what the Rays could do. They could trade Ji-Man Choi for the Pirates, and in return, they get Yoshi Tsutsugo. Let's give Yoshi another shot. Honestly, I would not be surprised if Yoshi has a better year with the Pirates than Ji-Man Choi does with the Rays.
That's a good Locked On Rays prop bet for Locked On Rays Nation.
Okay, I'll put it down on the table.
Let's put it down on Twitter.
Okay.
Who do you think will have a more productive year, Yoshi Tsutsugo or Ji-Man Choi? That's coming up today on Twitter. But you know what? I'm excited about too.
Built Bars?
Oh my God, Built Bars, man. You know why? Because I don't know. Are you friends with Santa, Kevin?
On occasion. It depends what I get year in, year out. I wasn't too happy last year. So.
Okay. Well, you can tell Santa to throw a few Built Bars in those stockings
I think his budget was cut last year.
There it is.
Pandemic, that didn't help.
That didn't help. Well, you know what? That's not going to be the case this year. Okay, Santa can give you some this year because there's a promo code. It's locked 15. So when you go to built.com in the North Pole and you're trying to see, okay, who's been good, who's been naughty this year, well, you can get those good people some Built Bars, and you can do it too. Again, built.com, you pick all your flavors. There's so many flavors. You can dip them in hot cocoa. It's the right time of year to do that. Remember, there's a promo code, locked 15, and you get all of these delicious, healthy, chocolatey bars at your disposal. So again, Built Bars are at built.com, and you use promo code locked15. Get them today.
Just a couple more comments on the Ji-Man Choi thing. We put it out on Twitter. Will first baseman Ji-Man Choi be on the Rays roster in 2022, or will he be traded beforehand? 58% of the voting populace out there say yes, he'll be on the team. 29% say no, he'll be traded, and 13% are unsure. Caleb L29 says, barring a wacky Olsen trade, I don't see why not. Baseball fan P. May says, don't put this out there. Now, Kaka, that's another story. I don't know what P. May is talking about. Whatever. And then Jake Stokes says, I feel like he would have been non-tendered if he wasn't going to be on the team. Can't imagine what his trade value would be versus the fan/clubhouse backlash if he were.
Who said
traded.
that?
Jake Stokes.
Jake. Yeah, I agree with Jake right there. I mean,
here's my idea.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
This Choi hate is not going to lead you anywhere.
I don't hate Ji-Man Choi. I just don't think. I think in the open market, sure, he could get $3.2 million. I just don't see. It just seems so backwards from my perspective.
You know why? I've cracked it.
T-shirt sales.
Well, maybe.
International viewership.
Yeah, maybe.
MLB TV subscriptions in Korea.
Maybe. No, look, honestly, man, I think we're just looking at the spreadsheet right now.
We're too spreadsheet
happy right now with Ji-Man Choi. Maybe we always have. Look, he looks like he really energizes that team, that clubhouse. And again, with our special guest, we talked about what this means in the clubhouse. Some things you're not going to find a stat. There is no WRC plus for good camaraderie, but it counts. It counts. Yeah. A good ethics, good work ethic, good being a good teammate. I mean, we all have jobs. So are you not, just in a bad mood when that coworker just keeps talking and is arrogant and all that? Mm-hmm. Of course. But what about that other one that cracks jokes, that keeps everybody happy, that is a team worker? Like, you like those people.
Right.
That's nice. So we don't have the stats for that. Ji-Man Choi is that guy. I think we need to throw out all the numbers. Again, he is very serviceable as a platoon guy. But just like in the Hall of Fame voting, where we say, why is it always the integrity clause putting as a negative instead of as a positive? Mm-hmm. I think we have to look at it the same way. If guys get traded for being clubhouse cancers, maybe sometimes when the numbers are just so and there's a clubhouse enthusiasm positive attached to them, then they get to stay.
That's a very astute point. I don't disagree. Now, I will say this. Ji-Man Choi can't be in a Rays uniform in the next 5 years. He can't sign a free agent contract with the Rays. Like, he's not. How much longer is he going to be? Like, the time is going to have to expire at some point. And here's what's going to happen. Okay,
he's going to be a knuckleballer throwing right-handed for the Rays in 2025.
Is Ji-Man Choi secretly the Rays' right-handed power bat? He's going to go switch hitting. Is that the move that he's going to go after?
Yeah. He's tried it. I don't know.
That's
man.
Part of the fun. That's part of the allure of Ji-Man Choi. I get it, but maybe if the pitching experiment with Brendan McKay continues to blow up in the Rays' face, maybe just have him be a hitter. Just work on the one thing. Be a first base DH lefty masher. Or be a lefty that, mashes righties and can be productive. Because you talk about you're tired of you're not going to talk about Ji-Man Choi leaving the team anymore. I'm tired of talking about Brendan McKay being a two-way player. I think that ship has sailed. That's over with. And then, in fact, the Rays are kind of doing the opposite of what I suggest. They're continuing to roll him out there as a pitcher, and he's not going to be hitting whatsoever. But I think another arm injury, another setback. Like, at what point do you say, okay, we know you hit at Louisville. We know you have the skills, but just being able to focus on one,
he has never actually hit in the minor leagues, though. Like, he has never actually hit. He was successful, more than successful on the mound, but the hitting tool never really translated from college ball to the minor leagues, like, ever. Yeah. So then it would be a 2 to 3 year program starting today,
right?
Saying just focus on this. And like you said, the Rays still want the arm for the mound rather than the bat.
Yeah.
And that should tell us that, if he doesn't put it together this year, I think we might see more pitches being thrown by Brent Honeywell in 2021 with the Rays than ever again by Brendan McKay.
It's possible. I think that this idea that I had not too long ago that the Rays are going to try to foster more two-way players, it just is not realistic. There's two guys. There's Babe Ruth and Shohei Ohtani.
And Shohei Ohtani was better. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. It's just too taxing physically and mentally. The game is too hard.
It's too tough, man.
You can do it in college. You can do it in high school.
Yeah, sure.
You can maybe get away with it in the minor leagues a little bit. Do a little Jake Corn worth action of,
Yeah.
okay, I'm going to be a full-time hitter and then, throw 7 innings in the mine to try to manage the workload and go back and forth between both of them. It's just not,
and I know Lorenzen is out there too.
Yeah,
but
that's not,
it's Ohtani.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much. So one last thing here. We did get a fun little comment here from one of our dedicated listeners, Brian Stark. He says, has anyone else noticed that 3/5 of the Red Sox rotation next year are ex-Rays? Nate Eovaldi, Rich Hill, Michael Wacha, not to mention Ronaldo Hernandez and Christian Arroyo. I petition to change the Boston Red Sox name to the Boston Retreads. How about that?
That's a good comment. You know what? I think this is a segment of its own.
Yeah.
I'll just say this so we can kind of preview a segment maybe for Friday's episode on this. I know people detest maybe more the Yankees than the Red Sox historically if you're a Rays fan.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's about to change. Watch out for the Red Sox. That's all I'm saying. We'll talk about it in another segment, but watch out for the Red Sox. Don't care so much about the Yankees right now.
I'll just say this.
The Red Sox just got smarter, and when they showed it in 2021.
They did with Hunter Renfroe, with
Kike Hernandez,
Garrett Whitlock, and Kike Hernandez. Like, I imagine that they're on the surface, it's like, what the hell are the Red Sox doing signing James Paxton, Michael Wacha, and 42-year-old Rich Hill? And then you're going to find out in trading for Jackie Bradley Jr., who had maybe the worst year of any, everyday position player last year. And all those guys will probably wind up being okay or much better than expected.
The Red Sox got smarter.
Chaim Bloom.
There you
It's
go.
all about Chaim Bloom. Yeah, we'll have to discuss that at a later date for sure. Also, I don't think the Yankees. Evan Klosky joked about them being in the bargain bin and not really going after anybody yet. Just wait till once the new CBA is agreed upon.
Yeah,
watch out.
Yeah,
they are going to be
same old
unloading
thing.
the brinks.
That's the same old Yankee philosophy.
Yeah, it's just throw money at the problem. Throw money at the problem and see if we can get 90 wins out of it.
Exactly. The Red Sox are, I'm gonna shut up now.
Okay, fair enough.
And then leave it for the next on Friday's episode.
One last thing, you mentioned a good prop bet idea. Who will have a better season, Yoshi Tsutsugo or Ji-Man Choi? Have you ever come to an agreement or a consensus or figured out which way you're leaning on my Marlins Mets prop bet that the Marlins will finish with as good or a better record than the Mets in 2022?
Yeah, I think I have to I think I would lean Mets rather than Marlins. Yeah.
All right. That might be our first one that we're going to have to put in ink there.
Okay.
Because I think the Marlins are going to have a better record. That's fine. Sure of it. I'm getting cigars this year.
You are. I'm hopeful that you actually win this one.
Okay.
I can't put green Skittles in something I don't see happening.
Okay. Fair enough. All right. Thank you for making the Locked On Rays podcast your first listen every day. Now make your second listen the Locked On Bets podcast. That is free and available on all platforms. Hope you all have a wonderful day. And we have a very, very special guest planned for Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So stay tuned for that. And we will, I assume, be back on Friday.